Hi, I'm Neghar Fonooni, and today I'm going to show you a really great beginner kettlebell workout. If you're brand new to exercise, you're going to want to start a little bit on the lighter side, so somewhere between 18 and 26 pound kettlebells. If you're a little bit more advanced, you're not new to exercise, but maybe you are new to kettlebells, you can start about 26 pound kettlebell and kind of work your way up and see where your sweet spot is. All you need today is really just one kettlebell. We're going to do a total body circuit. Our circuit is going to consist of 6 exercises, and we're going to run through 3 rounds. Your goal today is to get 3 rounds of the circuit in 15 minutes or less. So that means that you're only going to rest when you need it. In between exercises, maybe you'll rest and maybe you won't. It really just depends on how you're feeling. If you need the rest, however, please take it, because more than anything, the form of your exercises is most important, so really pay attention to technique, okay? The first exercise we're going to do today is called the TGU roll. The TGU is short for Turkish get-up. The Turkish get-up is a really great total body exercise. It's a little bit more complex and advanced. But to start off, we'll just do the very first move of the exercise, which is the roll. Even just the first move on its own is an awesome core exercise. So I'm going to get down on the floor and show you what it looks like. I'm going to roll onto my side, grab my kettlebell, and press it up. I want to make sure that my wrist is straight, my elbow is straight, and my shoulder is packed, so I'm squeezing underneath my armpit. Since the kettlebell's on my left side, I'm going to bend my left leg, and I'm going to take my right arm and my right leg about a 45-degree angle away from my body. I'm going to press my left foot, my right leg, and my right arm into the ground as I breathe out, and I'm going to roll up diagonally. It looks like this. And a nice controlled roll back down. So I want to make sure I don't flop back down. I roll down from shoulder to shoulder. As you can see, I'm not reaching with the kettlebell or punching up with the kettlebell. My shoulder's staying packed. And you can look at my right shoulder and see that I'm not collapsed down into my right shoulder. Nice and connected through both shoulders. And a nice controlled roll back down. When you're ready to finish, pull the kettlebell in, roll to your side, drop it off, and then go ahead and do the other side. We're going to do that 6 to 8 times on each side. You're really going to connect to the core and get a good shoulder workout as well. Then we're going to hop up and we're going to do a deadlift. So for the deadlift, if you've never done a deadlift before, you want to make sure that you're really using your hips. Okay, so we're not going to bend over and pick up the weight. We're going to hinge at the hips and use the legs to pick up the weight. If you've done a deadlift before, you've probably done a barbell or dumbbell deadlift where the weight is out in front. For the kettlebell deadlift, we're going to start with the weight right in between our feet. And you might even want to think about lining up the handle of the kettlebell with your heels or your ankles. The reason why we put the kettlebell there is it really enforces having to reach back for the weight, and as you can see, that really engages the glutes and the hamstrings and encourages that hinging movement, and it also makes you engage your lats because you really do have to reach down and back for the weight. We want to do that because as we're doing the kettlebell deadlift, our goal is to eventually work up to the kettlebell swing. So doing the deadlift this way really helps set a firm foundation for the kettlebell swing, okay? So we're going to stand nice and tall, reach back for the weight, grab the handle and squeeze underneath your armpits to really engage your lats, and then push your feet through the floor to stand up. And every time you reach that weight back, touch the ground exactly where the kettlebell started. Make sure that your back doesn't get round at the bottom, and then at the top you're squeezing your glutes. When you stand up, you should form a nice straight line from your ears all the way down to your ankles. Inhale as you go down. Exhale as you come up. And keep that weight connected to your lats at all times. And you're going to do that for 8 to 12 reps. Once we're done with the deadlift, we're going to move on to an exercise called the goblet clean. And it's called the goblet clean because anytime you're holding the kettlebell by the horns or the handle at your chest, that's called the goblet position. So for the goblet clean, we're gonna do much the same movement as we did with the deadlift. And if you look closely, you'll see that the movement in the hips is almost identical. Where the kettlebell ends up is really the only difference. So again, start with that kettlebell right in between your feet. We're gonna reach down and we're gonna use the hips to bring the kettlebell up to the chest. So your arms are involved, but they're not doing all the work by themselves. The arms are just guiding the kettlebell up to the chest, but it's still that snap of the hips that brings the kettlebell up. So you can see it's some good dynamic momentum, getting my heart rate up and getting a little bit out of breath. And from the front, it looks like this, right to the chest in that goblet position. Whew. You're gonna do 8 to 12 of the goblet clean as well. Once you're done with the goblet clean, we're gonna move on to a one arm, can you see I'm out of breath? We're gonna move on to a one arm bent over row. If you've ever done a bent over row with a dumbbell, it's relatively the same. So what we're gonna do is hinge at the hips just like we were in that deadlift and that goblet clean. And you're gonna grab that kettlebell and you're gonna pull the shoulder back. So you don't want the weight hanging from your body. You wanna think about having to hold on to a $100 bill underneath your armpit. Back nice and flat, you don't want to be hunching. And you're going to rotate the bell, pulling the shoulder blade back, and really squeezing the shoulder blades together. You want to make sure that you're not just pulling the weight up, doing this funky thing with your shoulder. You really want to squeeze that shoulder blade back, protect your shoulder, as well as really get your back involved. And we're going to do 6 to 8 of those on each side. Once you're done with the one arm bent over kettlebell row, we're going to move on to the goblet squat. And you can imagine what that looks like because we know what the goblet clean looks like. So we're going to stand with our feet. How about squat distance? That's different for every person. Mine is feet just about right outside of the hips. And you're going to grab that bell, perform one goblet clean, squeeze underneath the armpits, and sit down and back. Just go as deep as you can, and then stand up. Inhale down, and exhale, stand up. Just make sure your knees don't cave in at all. You don't want to do this. Okay? Keep those knees pulled apart. And as you can see from the side, my back is nice and tall, I'm not hunched over. And just go as deep as you can without rounding your back. When you ascend from the goblet squat, you're going to end up in the same position that you're in at the top of that goblet clean, and even at the top of that deadlift. Straight line from your ear all the way down to your ankle, glutes are engaged, quads are engaged, and abs are braced. We're going to do about 8 to 12 goblet squats. Then we're going to move on to our last exercise, which is the kettlebell floor press. So we're going to come down to the ground for that. And we're going to pick up the bell in the same way that we did with the Turkish get-up. We're going to lie on our side first. Roll to the back. And this is your starting position. Okay? You can keep your knees bent. It'll help keep your back nice and flat, all right? And then we're just going to press the weight up, shoulder pat, wrist and elbow straight, and bring it back down. Your lat's going to be really engaged here, a lot more than it would be in a regular dumbbell bench press. Inhale, bring the weight down with control, and exhale up. And when you're done, bringing the weight down to the side, okay? Just make sure when you go to do the other side, just the same way with the Turkish get-up roll, that you either turn around and leave the kettlebell where it is, or you take the kettlebell to the other side. You don't want to pass the kettlebell over your face to the other side for obvious reasons. So we're going to do 6 to 8 kettlebell floor presses on each side, and that's one round. So we begin with the TGU roll for 6 to 8 reps on each side. Moving on to the kettlebell deadlift for 8 to 12 reps. Then to the Kettlebell Goblet clean for 8 to 12 reps. So we begin our circuit with the TGU roll, 6 to 8 reps on each side. Then to the Kettlebell Deadlift for 8 to 12 reps. Your third exercise is the Goblet Clean, again for 8 to 12 reps. Then we go back to upper body with the one-arm Kettlebell Roll, 6 to 8 on each side. Back to lower body for the Goblet Squat, 8 to 12 reps. And then back to upper body for the floor press, 6 to 8 on each side. So as you can see, we start on the floor and we finish on the floor. So when you're there, you can just go right back into the next exercise. And we transition from primarily upper body movements into primarily lower body movements, although you are using your entire body for the whole circuit. So you're getting a total body workout in just about 15 minutes. Complete 3 rounds, only take rest where needed, and have fun with your first kettlebell workout.